Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest today is Elizabeth Pampalone, and she is an engaging speaker, successful entrepreneur, master networker, and trusted business advisor. She started her first business over 13 years ago. With over 20 years of experience in the marketing field, she equips business visionaries to achieve success through the power of absolute marketing. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. I appreciate you being here. It seems like you do a lot of work, and I'm glad you could fit us in. It does.
Yeah,
Do a
thank
lot.
you.
Okay, so my first question generally to everyone, and I won't exclude you, is what lit the fire for you to become an entrepreneur? What was that spark, or was it kind of always there?
Well, I actually went through a divorce at the age of 20.
Been
So
through one of
yeah,
those.
yeah, it was not fun. But I had to move back in with my parents. It was I felt like recall it as Alice in the little house, like big Alice in the little tiny house, when she grows outside the windows and everything. And so that was my life. And I knew that there was something I had to do, but I didn't know what that should be. And so my mom just said to me, pick two things you like and make a job, because it was hard for me to find a job. I had all these qualifications, but I wasn't qualified enough for this, but I was overqualified for that. And so I was in the middle. So she said, just pick two things you like and make a job. So I said, well, and this is, 20-year-old me. I said, I like old people and computers. She said, well, wherever those two things exist together, go talk to them about it. I don't know. She just had no idea what else to do with me. So I went to a senior center where I lived locally, and I started talking to them. I said, do you have a computer lab? Yes. Do you have a computer teacher? He just quit. Okay. What are you going to pay me for that, for that job? And basically I did that for 10 years. I taught classes, and as I started teaching classes, people started saying, well, my computer doesn't do that. And so then I said, well, and I thought to myself, these are old people. They're harmless. I could go to their house. It's not a big deal. So I just started going to people's homes, randomly, when they would say, oh, can you come help me with my computer? And I would do that. And I had that business for 10 years. So
that's amazing. But when you were talking about old people with computers, I was thinking of me. So, no,
well, yeah. And at the time I thought everybody was, way older.
Okay. I'm sorry. So how did your business that you have now come up, or how did that happen out of that?
So I have a web programming degree. And so, like I said, I was qualified for some things, but not qualified enough for others. And so I just had to figure something else out. And it was sort of still in my field of technology. And so I actually kind of kept going with the web degree, even through the other business that I owned. But I didn't know a lot of business people at the time. And so I just kind of figured, well, this is my residential community. I get a lot of word of mouth through the residential, but a lot of the people in those positions, my clients, they were all retired or about to retire, and none of them needed any websites or marketing or anything like that. So I just used it for myself, because I was running a business. I had to have a website. I had to have marketing, graphic design, all that stuff. So I used it on myself, and I developed a lot of programs to help myself do things faster, because I was constantly with clients from 9 a.m. till sometimes 9 p.m., running from place to place, travel time in between, teaching a class, going to a home, and so I had to kind of fit in my own marketing into that. So I kind of developed all these things for myself. Then someone told me, well, you should go to a networking meeting. And I was like, what the heck is that? And this is about 4 or 5 years into my business. And I started realizing there were other business people out there, because I didn't know where to find them. And I started going to a ton of networking meetings, and I became the networking queen
Nice.
Because I went to 3 networking meetings a day for a year.
What'd you say? I've heard this on your website. Actually,
yes.
I heard this in one of your videos, that you went to 3 meetings a day. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Not only is that commitment and dedication, and that's insane.
It was very insane. At that point, my husband had come on to work the business with me, And so we were both working the computer repair teaching business together. And so I said, okay, now it's time for me to add this other component that I have this degree in and start helping small businesses with their computers or their printers, but then also with their marketing and kind of branch from there. So my in was I have a computer repair business, and everybody was like, oh, me. Then I would get to know them, have the relationship, and then say, oh, by the way, I can help you with your marketing too and your website. So he would do the trainings and the teachings and do the, residential side. And then I started this business side. And it really helped. And once I got through that year, I realized there was a ton of networking groups that just were failing. They would have 1 or 2 people show up. They were not very good. Sometimes the leader wouldn't show up at all. They were just online and nobody would show up, except people would be like, well, who's leading this thing? So I started at that point, after a year of networking and realizing I could do it. It's not, it's not rocket science. I started taking over dead and dying groups. So I would go to a group, they would have no leader. They would have a leader who was very just disinterested, you could tell. So I would talk to the person or contact the leader and say, hey, look, I'm taking your group over. And they would say, great, have at it. Throw it at me practically. And I ran 13 meetup groups a month for 2 years.
Wow.
After that.
13?
So, yeah.
And Meetup, if you don't know, people out there, Meetup is an app or a place where you can find meetings in your local area from a whole bunch of different topics and things. It's really a valuable resource if you get a chance to use it.
It really is. And I recommend it to everyone because it has so much on it. No matter what industry you're in, you can always find some kind of meeting. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have any networking locally. I live in the boonies. I live so far out. There's nothing around me. I can almost guarantee you there is at least 1 to 2 meetings close by. And it might not necessarily be on Meetup, but that's a good place to start. And I have one tip about Meetup, though, that I wanted to throw in here. If you're using it, only put business interests in it. Have a separate account. The accounts are free, so there's no big deal. Have a separate account for personal if you like kayaking or you like, flower making or flower arranging or something like that. But if you want to work with businesses, only put your business interests in because Meetup only shows you a certain number of events so that, what's closest to you. And there's like this algorithm. So if you only put in business interests, you're going to find all the business events. But if you put in other stuff, it's going to limit what you see for business. So I try to tell people that's a little tip.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, it does. Don't put crocheting in there if you want to meet up with business owners.
Exactly.
It actually sounds like it makes sense and common sense and all that. But
yeah, sometimes you just don't think about it. It says, what are your interests? And you go, oh, I like crocheting and kayaking and hiking.
Right. So you write it all down, so you get a wide variety of what you like.
Exactly.
So along your entrepreneurial journey, and you mentioned a divorce, what things internally and externally have been like obstacles or roadblocks for you that you had to navigate around or through, and how did you overcome those to be successful?
The first one was the recession. That was our big, that was a big one. At that point, I had taken on my husband as an employee as well. So we were flying solo. And it was, I saw these businesses around me start failing and start closing and even like businesses that have been in business for years and years and years. And here I am 4 or 5 years in business, 3, 4 years in business going, oh my gosh, like how am I going to make it? Because I'm seeing all this failure. And so I just kept going. I just kept thinking of new things, innovating, creating new products. If something didn't work, I would let it have its course, but I would abandon it immediately if I knew, okay, this is run, we're done with this, and move to the next thing. And the constant innovation was the only thing that kept us going, I think. And being honest with people was another piece. So the recession really was a hard hit because everybody was feeling it. And then working with my spouse was another huge thing. Like a lot of people I meet, they say, oh, I could never do that. And there's some people that can't, and that's fine. But it's definitely takes 2 special people to actually make it work and not kill each other or divorce each other. So my second husband is, I married him. I'd already had the business for a few years before I married him. And so I'm this business owner and he's just kind of coming into the, along for the ride. And so it was very interesting to get that dynamic working. It took about a year. It was like we went through our first year of marriage again.
Wow.
when we did that, because we had to learn each other all over again, because we didn't have the same dynamic anymore. It wasn't you go to work, I go to work, we come home, we have a nice weekend, or evening, and then that's it. I mean, we were 24/7 together. And then I'm the boss, but he's the husband, and we have, we're Christians, and so we have this biblical idea of marriage. And so it was very difficult to kind of like put all the pieces together. But after the first, I would say 9 to 12 months of a lot of conversations, we didn't fight so much. Like, it was more, this is what I want you to do as the employer. Well, don't tell me what to do as, like, I'm the man, so it was a lot of that kind of like bickering more.
Yeah, that's tough.
But once we figured out like what the dynamic was and where the roles lay, we even wrote job descriptions for ourselves, all that stuff to make it easier. Yeah. So that was another obstacle that I think could have broken everything, and really not just my business, but my marriage, my life.
Yeah.
And we had to fight through that and kind of make sure that was going to work before, we really could move forward,
That's a difficult dynamic. It really is. You can see where that would be a difficult thing to work through, and I'm glad you guys can communicate well. I think that's one of the keys to it. I mean, it's difficult. Marriage is difficult anyways, let alone being in that situation. So that was that is an obstacle.
Yeah, and I'm glad we did that, because it's made everything else since then. Well, we went through that. We can do this. That we can work this out. And we're doing a project together, like on the house, because my husband doesn't work with me any longer. He actually went and he's like, you know what? Once we sold the tech business, he was like, I kind of want to do my own thing now. And I was like, okay, well, what is it you want to do? And when the recession was over at that point, so we're like, let's try something different now. It's time to innovate again. And so now when we do projects at home and everything, we have to kind of go back to our training that we trained ourselves and say, okay, this is a project. We have to do it together. We have to communicate.
That's awesome. It is like I said, difficult dynamic. Did you have to go through any limiting beliefs or anything like that on your journey, internal stuff?
Yes. I still deal with that. I think all entrepreneurs deal with it constantly. So it's something that never really goes away, because every level that you reach, there's another belief that says, oh, you can't reach the next one. One of the big ones was hitting 6 figures. I didn't think that was possible. I'd been in business for, I want to say, I'm trying to remember the timeline, because when you're in business for a long time, it just kind of seems like it all blurs together. But I'd been in business for a few years, and I'd gotten a business coach, and I'm a business coach as well, but I believe that coaches need coaches. So I took my own advice and got a coach, and she told me that she believed that I could make 6 figures. And this was I want to say it was in like 2015 time frame. Yeah, it was 2015. And we're right at the end of the recession. Everything's about to be really great, like start to get really, really great. But I didn't know that. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is going to last forever. And she says, you can hit 6 figures this year. And this was like May of 2015. And I said, I don't know who you're talking to, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think I was sitting at around 50,000 at that point, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. And she said, it can happen. I said, no. And I knew that with certain months, I would have slow times that were coming up. So I knew that I wasn't going to be making another 50 and then hit, the 100. So at that year, I made 75.
Right.
And I was like, see, I didn't hit it. It's not, I told you. And the next year, I wasn't working with her as a coach anymore. And I just decided I'm not going to put pressure on it, but I'm going to work towards it. So I'm not going to sit there and go, I got to make 6 figures. I'm just going to work really hard. And that's my goal, is to someday make 6 figures. And it was really surprising when I got to the end of 16 and I looked at the P&L, and I just was like, there's 3 numbers before the comma. I don't know how those 3 numbers appear. And I look back at my year going, I don't remember a time when I thought, wow, I made a lot this month, our best month ever. There wasn't anything like that.
Right.
It was so gradual. But then at the end of the year to look at it and go, I did it. Like, I didn't even know I did it, but I did it. So, and it was really more about not thinking I can't, but also not putting the pressure on saying
Exactly.
I have to. So,
right. That's a really good way of thinking, because you pressure yourself and then you're going to stress yourself out and worry about it, which is the opposite of what you want to do.
right.
So that's a difficult situation too. And I think we all go through a little bit of self-doubt and all those things. I know I do. And I go through a lot of that, to be honest. But, it is what it is. We got to just conquer it and go over it and go through it. That's where we are. That's where we're at. So I looked at your website, and it said, the kind of, and I want to get this wrong. So maybe I'll just ask you. What do you do for your clients nowadays? What's your thing that you just crush?
Well, I told you I developed a lot of systems for myself, being a business owner, not having a lot of time for marketing, but I had to market. So I created some one-day systems, and now I've taken 5 of my one-day systems and put them into a week. So it's a 5-day package. And I work with someone for 5 days, and we create all of their marketing for an entire year.
In 5 days?
In 5 days, yeah.
Wow. So what does that include? I mean, what is involved in that?
We start with brand, because a lot of people, their brand is not as strong as it could be. And I have clients that say, well, can't you just work on my website with me? I've got my logo and it's fine. But when I sit down with them and I start to look at that logo and I start to look at the brand as a whole, if I don't feel it's strong enough, I won't let them go forward. I'll say, you're not going to waste your money on a whole nice website that your brand is not good enough to support. So we need to fix the brand if need be, or make you a new one, or whatever it is. So I start with branding. And in the branding day, we actually write an ebook as well in one day. So
you write
and they write it.
An ebook, though. So I
yes,
get that.
It's an ebook.
Okay.
About 10 pages, 10 to 15 pages, depending. So we do the branding and we write the book. And then the day 2, we do the website. It's 1 8-hour day on a website. And it's finished. So start to finish. You don't have to have an existing site either. We just start from scratch. I've had people walk in with literally their computer and nothing else. No prep, no bio, nothing. I mean, maybe their headshot. That's it.
Wow.
So we start with that. That's for the website. And then we move on to 6 to 12 months of social media in a day, which is our 3rd day. And then we create 12 months of blogs in a day. It's our 4th day. And our 5th day is kind of a mix. Sometimes I'll do a whole day on email marketing, which is about a year's worth of campaigns. Or we'll work on networking and we'll write pitches and we'll do practice runs and I'll tell them where to network and things like that. So the 5th day is kind of our flex day, but email marketing is pretty strong one that I get a lot of.
So you're making your blogs for the entire year in a day.
Yes.
How many blogs do you do for a year?
12 to 24.
So 1 to 2 a month.
Yes.
Okay.
I tell people,
I'm trying to wrap that around my head. I'm like, holy cow.
I tell people 1 a month is good. 2 a month is better. 1 a week is ambitious.
Yeah, 1 a week would be tough in that situation. You have to do 52 in a day.
Right. So, and most of the time, once a week is not, for most business owners, it's too much. It's almost too much information to try and cram in. So if we can get 12 in, a lot of people have ideas throughout the year. And my whole point of all of this is to get a foundation, because you know that when we get busy, it's 3 months before we get back to it, or 3 weeks, or 6 weeks. And so that time period is lost revenue for the next 3 months, or the next 6 weeks, or the next 3 weeks. So to keep ourselves consistent, that's why I do this in 1 year. The main reason I do all of this is because, let's say you do 12 blog posts. That's 1 a month. And you want to blog once a month. That's fine. Or even twice a month. You get all that done. And then let's say it's April. You've done all this in January or May, or, whatever your year time frame is. let's say it's 2 months down the road, you've done all your blogs, everything's rolling smoothly, you're working, you're marketing, and then you have this great idea and you're like, I have to blog about this. So the blogs that we write are evergreen. So we take May 1st's blog and we say, you know what, May 1st blog, we're going to throw you out to January 1st of next year because we have, or June 1st of next year, because we have you all the way through the next year, right? So I'm taking this blog I have right now that I wrote that's good. It's good info. I don't need it right now. I've got this better one I want to put in. Throw that to the end of the line and put the one I just was so excited to write in right now, because then I'm motivated to write it. When you sit down for a month and you're like, I have to write 3 blogs for the month or 4 blogs for the month, or, I have to write something right now. Think. You can't, it's almost impossible. But when the idea strikes and you're like, yes, so excited, I have to write this right now, I have to type it up. Mm-hmm. Then you feel motivated and you're excited, and that comes through to the audience as well. So I want to get that foundation for those months when you're not struck by creativity, for those times when you're not feeling creative or excited about something, or you're really just busy. And fill in that time. It's done. You don't have to worry about it. It's a weight off of your mind. And you know that things are rolling out for you that you don't have to worry about. And then you can focus that energy on a client or on something creative. I find that when we get so busy and we're so mired in the work that we're doing, that we lose the creativity, because then we're weighed down by marketing and payroll and taxes and then the work we're doing. It's all kind of piled on top of each other. But when you take out that marketing piece, it's like Jenga, then you have this space now. You can actually think of something creative because this other thing isn't weighing down on you.
So if you're doing basically everything in a year, it's easier to plan out. So if your blog would go with the marketing, with the offers and different things like that, it's easier to create down the road and create all that. Wow, in one day, that's a lot. But and it just seems like it's a lot. But if you do it in one day, you've got all your stuff ready for an entire year. It frees you up to do so much other stuff.
It does.
It's just that's a really neat system. Do you have people come back the second year and do the same thing? Or do they come back?
Yeah, I have. My goal is to teach people how to do it so that they don't have to come back. Because it's a done with you system. So we sit one-on-one across the table. You have your computer, I have my computer, and we knock it out. So I'm really there to teach the person. And so you're getting the training and you're getting it done. Wow. So you're learning how to do things.
It's not only wow, that's cool, because a lot of marketing agencies, they just you give them what you kind of want and they just do it for you.
Right.
So you never learn anything.
This is a done with you system.
This is a done with you. That's totally different than people I've interviewed before, where it's good systems. Now, don't get me wrong, you gotta have some really good system, good people on their teams, but this is totally live, in person. Mm-hmm. Do you find that restrictive, or I was wondering that because of being online and stuff, there's just so many people you could do.
I travel to them or they travel to me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I have a travel fee that I provide the space, lunch. If I come to you, I get my own room. I get my own conference room. I have everything provided. I even know in other cities which co-working spaces I can use. And sometimes I just literally get an Airbnb with a really big dining room table, and we just sit down. Because I like it to be comfortable and I don't want the person to be nervous. I want them to feel like, hey, if I want to sit on the couch and work for an hour and then I want to come back to the table, we're cool with that. So, I try to make it as easy as possible. And I provide meals as well during those days, for lunch. Because we need a break and we need to have time to communicate and build relationships. So
we need pizza.
I will go to lunch and we do that too. I've had people say, you know what? I am really in this. I want to work through. Can we order lunch in? Yeah. And we do that, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? I know you need a break. I can see it. Yeah. Let's get out of here and take an hour and just,
Yeah. When your head hit the table, I had that first inclination. No, I'm
right. See the eyes glazing over.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's the idea of Parkinson's law is really what it is. And that's what I've built everything on, is that the amount of time you're given for a task is how long the task will take.
That's true.
So if a client
That's
gives
true.
you, I need the website in 4 weeks, it's going to take 4 weeks. If a client says I need the website tomorrow, we can
Gets
get it
done
done by
tomorrow.
tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. That's so true, though. It is. It's very true. I take up every little last second of my time. Trust me. um, so, how to ask that? I just wondered, is there packages or is it like individualized to you on pricing?
It's individualized. It depends on what the person really needs, because I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, oh, I just need a website. And then I look at their brand and I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that because I need your brand to be strong enough to support a website. So we need to do both. Or sometimes people will say to me, I've had people come to me that work for companies and they're the marketing person, or they're the, they have their own like sales team. And they say, you know what, I have all the branding, I have a website, I just need social media and email marketing. And sometimes they just need social media. And if it's only one day that a person needs, I'd rather them spend the one day and work with me than me try and sell them 5 days they don't need. So I look at it based on what each person needs. And sometimes it's more than what they think, and sometimes it's less than what they think. But I just talk to each person individually and make sure that it's going to be right for them. But my main package is the 5 days. And I've done that with several clients, and it's just, I've got testimonials on my site, and I sometimes I go back and watch them because like these are all my friends now, because we spend 5 days together.
It is funny. It's funny how that works, because it's like on the last few shows, I've kind of stayed after a little bit, kind of help with a couple of people's businesses, just to give them a couple tips and stuff like that. And so I get to know people, on the shows. It's not just the time that people see right now, it's the time before or after, or when it comes out or whatever, when I get to talk to those people again. And I've built some pretty good relationships out of the whole thing. It's been really, really nice and very rewarding for me as well.
Yeah. And I love that we, you have that time to make the connection, even though you're working and you're doing things, that are important, you still have the time to make the connection. So.
Yeah, I like that too. So if let's say I'm a typical business owner, but I don't live in the United States, is that an issue?
I have done remote before. It's very difficult because sometimes internet is not what we expect it to be.
We found that out earlier.
Yes. So, those kind of things can get a little tricky.
Right.
I have had people come, like I said, travel to me, not out of the US yet, but, and then I love to travel anyway, so I'd love to go to somewhere fun. But it's definitely something that can be worked out, but it's a little bit trickier. I like to make sure that the service has the quality level still. And the sitting across from you at a table in the same room, it makes such a difference. I've worked with people remotely that were in the same state, just to, like, it was when we were trying all that stuff out, and she got the service done. We got the website done, and she was happy with it, but I could tell there was this disconnect from when I work with a client, one-on-one in person. So I kind of limited it to the one-on-one in person. Yep. And some people I've had get all the way to the end of like just about to sign the contract, and then they're like, no, I can't do it. So, when it becomes real, like, I'm coming out there, we're going to do this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I've had people say, I'm on a plane tomorrow, what's your next available date? So, it just depends on where the person is, what they really, really want, what they really, really need. It's not an inexpensive service, but you're getting the service and the training at the same time. So I want to make sure you're set up for several years to come, not just the 1 year.
I like it. I do, because a lot of people, I'm in a different situation because I do podcasts. So I don't really do blogs or that type of thing, but having all that editing to do and all the things that I do during the day, you know what I mean? If I was doing a blog or something like that and was able to plan out content for a year, wow, that'd be something else. And then have it done for the whole year.
Yeah.
So do you take that? I know you said you did like 10 to 14 page, 15 page little ebook. Is that a lead magnet? Is that what we're using that for?
Yes. And so when we're building the site, we're creating the page for that. We're creating taking the email marketing piece and connecting that together. So all of it's working together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, most people know what this is, but I'm just going to make sure. So can you explain what a lead magnet is to somebody?
Yes. So it's a free thing that you would give away on your site most of the time. And the only payment the person would give you is their email address, which is very valuable to you. And so sometimes I have people create guides. Sometimes I've taken articles that people have written and we compile them together and make a book out of that. I've done checklists with people. I've done, let's see what else. I've done like worksheets, like multiple worksheets we put together. And we put them on the site, put your email in, and you'll get this free guide or this template or, whatever that thing is. So it's something that's very simple and easy that you've probably already created or already have. And you can monetize it in a free way by just asking for an email address, which most people are very readily willing to give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. So in your email marketing, we get inundated with email nowadays. We just do. There's just so much of it. How do you make your clients stand out from the rest of the noise that they're getting in their inbox?
It has to be authentic, and it has to be relevant to what the person is putting out there. So when I've had clients create emails themselves, and let's say it's coming up for Valentine's Day, and they're a water softening company, I don't know, something random.
Yeah.
They'll pick the Valentine's template in their email marketing system, and then they'll send out that red and pink email, probably without even their logo on it, just their name. And they'll say, if you want to impress your sweetie this Valentine's, get her a water softener system. They'll do something like that. And It's not relevant. It's random. It's not their brand colors. It's not. And so then when you see things like that, that just turns you off of that email. When you see someone's email that when I create one with them, I want the person who's reading it to go, oh, I see exactly who that's from, and I am excited to open that. Yep. And the subject line is a huge draw. And so we use emojis in subject lines. We use GIFs in the emails, people's favorite TV shows and things like that. And we try and make it something that you would see almost like a post, like a Facebook post or an Instagram post, but in an email. Because email is actually one of the fastest ways to get to someone directly. Whereas on Facebook, the algorithm says, well, you don't see this, but you do. And Instagram is changing the way the feed is now because it's owned by Facebook. So
of course, so now they got to be the same way.
Exactly. Why not have two algorithms? We just have one. And so what we try to do with email is I tell people, they're like, well, isn't email dead? Well, my main question is, think about one of the first things you did this morning.
Yep.
Check your email. I almost check it like I check the time. I check my email. I open my phone up and there's my email. And it's because you're thinking, what does my boss, my client, my boss, my supervisor, whoever the person is over you, right? And it could be multiple clients. You have multiple bosses. What is my boss telling me to do today? What is my calendar telling me to do today? Usually that's connected to your email as well. So email is a huge thing. We are in it constantly. And I know a lot of people have iPhones too, and they have the screen time app where you can see how much time you spend on your phone. And if you look at the amount of time you spend in your email application, I think you'd be shocked. So looking at that and thinking of yourself as a consumer, and a lot of people when it comes to marketing, we don't think of ourselves as consumers, which we should, because we are. Especially for our own demographic, that's even better. And you think of like, what do I do every day? What am I thinking about every day? What are my concerns? What are my habits? All those things. I know that I'm my own consumer. I'm a small business owner. I'm a woman. I'm, so many years in business, 6 figures. Like that's my market, right? So when I think about that and I think about what I do every day and what could help me, then that's what I provide to my customers, and knowing that my marketing has to fall in line with the habits of that consumer.
So you are your own avatar.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's okay. But I think that's actually the case in a lot of our businesses, whether we know it or not. we go searching for the right demographic and person and all this stuff, but generally it's us.
Yeah. And that's why we started our business in the first place, because we saw a need and we want to fill that,
Yeah, it does. That works out very, very well. So you have yourself or your ideal client in front of you. What would you tell them? What would you say to them about your business and what makes you unique?
I would say that, and this is something I tell almost every single person. Well, I hear horror stories a lot. And it makes me sick because I know people get ripped off. They get their money stolen. People say, I'll do a site for you. And they take their $2,000 and they never see them again. And I just can't even imagine, like, as a business owner, being able to ever do that. Like, just say, sure, give me your money, and then run away, So I hear these horror stories, and my main thing is I'm sorry about that. Like, I feel bad because it's kind of like on the industry now that this is the way things happen. And I won't do that to people. And it's kind of like one of those things like, trust me, like, I'm good, you can't really build trust that way. And I actually have had several people tell me, I don't know if I trust you. Aww. And I had one girl this week, actually, she said to me, I just don't know if it's going to work. I just don't know if I believe you. And I said to her, look, I can't fix your unbelief. I can't fix that. I can't change that mindset that you have. I said, the only thing I can do is send you to my testimonial page and have you watch the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are other people telling you.
You can't force people to trust you.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's a big deal.
Especially when you've been burned, it's really, really hard to fork over another 2,000 or another 1,000 or another 500, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to let go of that money again because I already made a bad decision.
Yeah.
And you don't know sometimes you're making a bad decision. You just think you're making a decision and it turns out to be a bad one. Through sometimes no fault of our own, someone else makes a bad decision which affects us. And I had another client, I was on vacation. She called me. She was in a panic. She said that her site needed help and she had all these issues. And I said, great. I said, I am going to be back in a few days. I will work with you. It'll be awesome. She was local. And she said, I can't do that. And I'm like, wait a minute, you called me. What's going on? And she said, well, I made a really bad decision. And my husband is very wary of anyone that I choose. And I said, look, you tell him you heard about me, you give him my number and make him call me. Make him do the inquiry. I said, he will find out for himself what whatever he thinks about it is fine, one way or the other, but he can make the decision. And you can just say, I heard about this girl. You should call her, I try to involve as many people that are the decision makers, because sometimes it is the wife and the husband, or sometimes it's the wife trying to help the husband, or vice versa. And, you can't, like I said, you can't change someone's unbelief or their mind about something just by saying, I'm the best and we're going to have the best time. It's going to be awesome. You have to just prove it. And so I try to just prove that through my clients that I have testimonials from. Have I had a few clients not give me testimonials? Mostly because they were too tired to be on camera. They refused to be on camera because they were exhausted. But I've had a couple people that have walked away and thought, I should have gotten more. That's my main complaint.
Okay.
And I think, well, I don't know how I could fit any more into 8 hours, but maybe we can try next time. But that was my main thing, is that, I'm providing the training and all of these pieces. And if that's what you need, then that's what I'm able to help you with. So not everyone's my client, but the ones that are, they find me and we make some amazing things happen. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And just to tell people that I know that you've been through probably some really bad designers, some really awful people that have taken your money or ripped you off or scammed you, but that's not what we do. And, we try and make sure that every client has the pieces they need to move forward in their business and go to the next level, because I'm here to be a stepping stone for you. I'm not here to, take your money and make sure that my levels keep going up and yours just stay the same. Right. I want it to be something you can step on and move up.
It's something that I say a lot on my show. I say that I have a lot of heart-led entrepreneurs, people that really do want to help people. And when you really want to help people, Why does it always seem to come across to everybody else that you're trying to take something from them or something like that? But you
Yeah.
really do sincerely want to help them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh yeah, I just want to grab your money and go or something like this. And it's difficult because,
Yeah.
you know, there's a dynamic there of an energy exchange between you giving what you do and what you do for them and the money, which is the energy they're giving back to you. Unfortunately, people always see it as something, I don't know how to put that, like salesy or something like
Yeah.
that when you ask for a sale. And I think that changes a lot of the dynamic between people too.
It does. And I feel like that's come about more so in the entrepreneur space. It's always been in the, I'll kind of disparage one industry for a moment, the car salesman space.
Yes.
It's always been attached to that. And that connotation has always been there. And there's been a lot of great car salesmen that I've met over the years because I've obviously bought several vehicles in my lifetime. But you know, they break through that mold, and they break through that, and they show you that, they prove to you that that's not the case with every single one of them.
Right.
So I feel like with entrepreneurs, we've kind of had this creep into this space a little bit over the last, I would say 10 to 12 years.
Yep.
And I call it the guru syndrome, because these gurus have stepped up, but then there's not a lot of substance underneath that says, wow, that person really, really helped me. And now I'm even further than that person, because
Right.
that was where my business
Right.
led because of how much they helped me. And I feel like with business services, we don't really grow as fast as our counterparts or our people that we're helping, and it's per se. So we're the ones that are kind of this, you step on the stepping stone, it goes down a few inches, and then you add another one, you know, and it's good. So, but you can't really liken that to saying that everybody is all that salesy and everybody's just going to take your money and say, okay, here's your 5 minutes of advice. Have a nice day. You know, those are what the gurus do. And then they say, oh, and then buy my other course because then that's more money, and, you know, things like that.
Right.
But with the real entrepreneurs, like you said, they're heart led. They want to help. And that's the reason we're doing this in the first place. I mean, if I didn't want to help anybody, I could just go to a job that I'm working in a cubicle, I'm crunching numbers all day, I'm writing code all day. And yeah, I'm probably helping people indirectly, but I'm not interacting with someone and listening to their struggles and their pain. And, you know, when I'm sitting with someone across the table and we're dealing with writing blogs or whatnot, I had one girl, she was writing blogs, and the whole time she just talked about her husband and her kids and her struggle and how she was the breadwinner and how this had to work because she was spending this money. And of course on me now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to make this work for you. You know, it made even more pressure on me. But
right.
At the same time, like, I was like her therapist for a day, you know, and I do a lot of coaching in these days. It's not just, okay, let's sit down. We do 1, 2, 3, 4. We're done. Okay, bye. Next person, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not an assembly line. You know,
Right.
and I'm dealing with people and their emotions and their feelings and what they think about themselves and what they think about their businesses and how they relate to other business owners and their, you know, the world in general. And it's very much, if I didn't believe in this, if I didn't believe that it was, you know, in people in general, if I didn't believe in the person who's sitting across from me, then it wouldn't work at all.
Won't.
So, you know, I definitely agree with you. And I think the guru syndrome has creeped in a little too much, and we just gotta push it back.
But I think that, like I said, I've interviewed quite a few people right now, and it seems like I get the luxury of having good people on the show all the time. And I see more and more good-hearted entrepreneurs come up now that don't see the greed as much as I used to, although I have seen it. But it's like mostly, I'd say 98% right now, I think, are really good people just trying to help other people. And they really are. It's got to know them. You know, I know what their situation really is. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we always put this nice, bright, shiny face here, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that no one sees. And so I get to know them, and I find that, yeah, these people are genuine. These people really do want to help people, and they really are who they say they are. And I think we're getting a lot more of those people.
Yeah. And that's a great thing that your show is like able to showcase that, because sometimes it's about finding those people that, we don't all have $200,000 to put into Facebook ads, and
Right.
be the number one in your feed every day,
Right.
And so
Right.
that's, I think, important that, just because you do marketing and you do good marketing or you do great marketing, it doesn't mean you're going to be found by the people that really do need what you have to offer, especially on that level. And so I think your show is a really great way to kind of help those people that are that heart-centered, person to really get their message out there. And, that's a great service in itself, for us and for the people who are connecting with them. So thank you.
And it is for me too, because I get to meet really cool people like you and a lot of other people that I just like, wow, that's really neat. And I'll say that like every show, but I'm sincere about what I'm saying. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And I'll even think about it on the show for a minute or two, like, how does that work? That's amazing. Something like that. Because I really do like, certain aspects of what people's genius are. You know what I mean? There's just a certain amount of, they say that everything under the sun has already been done and it's not duplicated. But I don't know. I tend to disagree sometimes because there's different angles and different ways that people go about stuff that are different, that are like something I've never heard of, at least. You're saying 5 days I could have all this done, and I'm like, what? That's my first reaction. What? Really?
Yeah. And it's like, let's say we're in the 2020s here. Let's say even 60 years ago or 50 years ago, you didn't need a website. Like it wasn't really a thing. I mean, there were websites essentially 50 years ago, but, they were internal. They were, with DOS and with, big floppy disks, and there wasn't that need for that. And so now with web coming as far as it has come and marketing coming to the point that it has, with people being able to do a lot of things themselves, that kind of stuff is unique to this time. And, in 20 years from now or 30 years from now, we'll say something completely different. And so I think, like you're saying, everything's been done. Okay. So marketing has been around since, the beginning of time, practically. It's basically persuasion,
Yes.
The art of persuasion. And yes, those things the concepts have been around, but the how you do it is what changes all the time. And so I think that's where the angles and the different perspectives come in, which I think is really awesome. And being just in marketing for the last 20 years, I've seen it change from, we used to have trails on our mice, our little mouse on the computer, the little trail, you'd move it around, and sometimes it'd be words, sometimes it'd be stars, tickers, which are now coming back for some reason. I don't know why. And, things that were on sites that you look back and you go, oh my gosh, that's so, early 2000s, like 90s, so whatever.
Cheesy.
Yeah. And now we're at such a different place. And in 20 years, we'll look back at the sites we're building now and go, oh, that was so old school.
Imagine that. It looks really nice now.
Exactly.
So, it won't be.
So it's definitely something that, that has been around forever. But like you said, the perspectives, the design, the way people look at things and even accept things or perceive what's being shown to them is different as well. So
that's true as well. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
ElizabethPampalone.com. It's my website, just my name. You can also Google me. Google was kind enough to give me a whole page all to myself. So
it's nice of those folks to do that.
Yeah. There's a lot of articles that I've been in, podcasts I've been on, my website, some other sites that I've been a part of, Facebook, so all those things. If you just Google me, my name, you'll find plenty of information.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Okay. So I want to give you this last bit of time to be able to say, whatever it is you want from your heart about your business to your people, the people that are watching this, the people that vibe with you, the people that are your tribe.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me today, by the way. I do appreciate that. I would say that even though someone is hitting six figures and they look, like you said, that shiny face, they're like, oh, look, I did all these things. It's still a struggle regardless, because this business, any business that you choose to do on your own, is a struggle. Whether you have a team, whether you don't have a team, I had a team last year and now I don't. And it's fine, but they come and they go and they change and things, things evolve. And so those kinds of things happen to every single person, every single level. And, when you own a business and you start to realize the intricacies of it, then you really appreciate your bosses of old and all the things they had to deal with. And especially if they owned the business and you're like, wow, they had to make payroll, wow, they had to make sure that we were all, in aprons and uniforms or whatever that was. And so, just from my perspective here and from, the people that are at the same level as me, low few years back from me, a few years ahead of me, we all have a struggle that's happening. Like you said, it's behind the scenes, but it's happening. So everyone is really on the same plane, just at a different capacity. So, and it's definitely something that this month has been probably one of my most introspective months and that I've had in a long time. And I've been able to kind of focus on that a little bit. And so just telling people that even though someone may look really successful or be at a certain level, it doesn't mean, like you said, they struggle with the self-doubt and the questioning and what am I doing here and what should I be doing next? And even though all these successes may be in the past, it's looking at the future and going, well, what's that next thing? So just to remind people that, this is the Truth Podcast.
Yes.
And we talk about truth here. So, I want to just remind people that we're all in the same journey, essentially. We're all dealing with the same types of things, just at different levels and different intensities.
That's right. That's right. We had a saying a long time. I don't know how old people are, but I just turned 50. So we had a saying, and I don't know how long ago it's been, but we said new level, new devil. And that's kind of the way we took things. You break through on one thing and all of a sudden something's getting you on the next level that you have to break through.
I think the saying the kids use now is more money, more problems.
That could be. I've heard that one too.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been really fun. It's been a good show. I really appreciate you being on today, Elizabeth. And I wanna make sure that everybody knows that the links and everything will be right below down here on YouTube. When it comes to Spotify and all those others, it'll be in the show notes. So you'll have to look at that way. So you might have to copy and paste. I know it's a struggle and all, but you might have to do that. I don't know. All right, everybody, if you like the video, give a thumbs up. I would love you to hit the little bell thing, subscribe, and then write a comment. And after that, have some coffee, sit down, relax, because boy, was that a journey. And I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.